Hey class, it's Mr. Malego. So I made this video because I want to show you guys how to ink your work, how to go from a pencil drawing to then applying ink using some specialized tools of mine that you're going to be using throughout this next week. So you can see right here, I've got my picture of me as Galactus, and what I've done is I've inked half of it so you can see the detail difference from an inked side to an uninked side. I've not erased any of the pencil marks that I've done under that, but I'm going to show you the whole process, how to go from this to this. So the first thing I want to talk about are the supplies that you need. And if you want to get these on your own, like, that's really awesome, go on ahead. I use, instead of microns, I use Tombos, and these are drawing pens that are like half the price of microns, that I think are tougher and of better quality than microns. And you can get them at Michael's. This pack of 3 is like $6 or $7. And they come in the 3 sizes that we're looking for. We're looking for 0.5 for the outside, 0.3 right here for the inner details inside of the outside line, and 0.1 for hair, little dents, or shadows that we'll be putting in on our figure. And if you look right here, you can see I've got this outside line. This is the 0.5. The objects on the inside here is the 0.3. And the shadows and the hair are a 0.1. Then on top of that, I've used this bad boy right here. And this is India ink that we'll be working in. You'll also need a small brush to apply that India ink. Right here, I've got a level 1 sable brush. It's a very small brush. I like to use this for inks a lot, even though technically this is meant for like watercolor. But I like it for ink. So, to get on with the process, I like to start usually with the outside line. Now, we're kind of limited on tools, so if you don't start with the outside line, it's okay. But I'm just showing you how I start step by step. So you can see right here, this other half of the face, I'm going to take my 0.5 and I'm going to go in and just follow that outside line. And I'm going to add little details. You can see I added a small divot right there. Little things that I wanted to add to the pencil drawing that maybe I forgot when I was doing it. So I'm going to add a little divot here, just to add some pizzazz and some detail to it. And again, I'm not doing any inner details. I'm just using this 0.5 to get the outside line. And if you have a hard time doing a straight line, grab a ruler. So you can see I'm going in here. And there, I've got my outside line done. I'm done with my 0.5. I'm now not going to mess with it anymore. I could go all the way around the figure if I really wanted to, but for this tutorial that you guys are going to be watching, I'm just going to do the head so you guys can see how I'm doing the head. Now that I've got that, I'm going to go to my 0.3, or my 0.3 if you're working in microns, and I'm going to go and get those inner shapes done. Now you might not notice the difference between the 0.5 and the 0.3, but those differences are very subtle. Those changes are subtle. And they do make a huge difference for the overall picture. I'm going in here, I'm getting the nose done. I'm not worried about the hair, but I am going to get that outer shape around it. And that contrast when you're doing your ink work really starts to make your work pop. It's really cool. So I've got this done. Now I'm going to go to my 0.1. Nice timing. I'm going to go to my 0.1 and I'm going to start adding my shadows and my hairs. So when I'm adding my shadows, I really want to think about what is the object that I'm adding shade to, where are my light sources from? And how are those light sources interacting with my object in itself? So I know in the background here I've got a bunch of stars. Those stars emit light. So we've got some backlighting hitting our character. And I definitely would say that there's stars in front of him because he's in space. So we definitely have some frontal lighting that we're going to add to this as well. So he's not going to be, if we just had backlighting, we would have like a big shadow in the front. But since we have lighting in the front and in the back, that shadow is going to split up. And so we'll have some shadow here on the edges. And then because he's backlit, we definitely won't have any shadow touching the edge in itself. So coming in with my 0-1, and I want to think about the places that I'm going to add shadow, and I'm going to add these little hatch marks. And these are small little lines that you're going to put in one direction, and they're not very big, and you want to keep them as stable as possible. So I have this rim of the nose right here. I'm going to add shadow to the rim of the nose. That eye is going to be having a little bit of a shadow coming under it. There's going to be a little shadow casted from this part of the hat because that juts forward from the face. And I'm going to change the direction of my hatch marks right here. And right in the middle, we're gonna put a little shadow right here in the middle. And I'm just making very short, quick lines that are filling in that gap with a little bit of detail. It might not make a lot of sense as you're doing it, but with practice, you'll know where to lay out your shadows. All right, so I've got my shadows pretty much laid out. And now I want to get my beard in here. And I'm going real quick. I'm going to apply just a little bit more pressure for that beard hair. And there are some parts where I know, because, well, I know myself very well, that beard hair is a little bit more dense. So I'm going to add more hatch marks, like in the goatee area, where I know that beard hair is going to be way more dense. And then maybe I want to add like little details here in the lips, like something that gives it a little bit of texture. And so I've got that laid out. And now I'm going to come in with my brush and I'm going to use my India ink. Be very careful because this India ink, it's permanent. Once it gets on your clothes, there's no washing it out. So make sure that you're working in a clean area where you're not going to be worried about destroying anything around you, and just be safe with it. Don't drink it. Drinking India ink's bad. So when I'm loading up my brush, you can see I have way too much ink on my brush. So I want to use the rim of my inkwell to pull some of that ink off. I don't want too much on there, but I do want a little bit. And I'm going to come in and think about the areas where some heavy shadow is cast. And I'm going to come in and just use my brush and just drop it in right over top. Now, because I know that the helmet is shiny, I can come in and add these little reflections that I have here that just kind of break up that detail and give I'm just doing little squiggle marks. You can see little squiggle marks that give the effect that this is some kind of like shiny, weird space helmet. And I'm going to put it right inside of some of those hatch marks. I don't want to put like a solid line. I just want them kind of just randomly just dropped in there just a little bit. And you don't want them to be too like straight. And I can see, like, I need to add a little bit more shadow right here around the face, just to give it some thickness. And those thick and thin lines really help to break some of that stuff up. I know that the edge of my supposed chin is right here, so I'm going to put that there just to give it some depth. Bring in some shadow right here. I'm really thinking about the object the whole time and where the shadow is cast. I'm going to come back into my inkwell. I know that this whole thing is going to be black. I've already marked it with my hatch marks, so I know where I want to lay the shadows. I'm going to do a little thinner shadowy line right there. Okay. All right, and you can see, like, with that little bit, I've inked it, I've added shadow, and now it's looking way more realistic. And I'm getting that effect that I'm really looking for with the piece. You might have parts that are black in the background, and that's where this like ink and inkwell is really good for you. So you can see I started a little bit here, but I can come in here with my brush, and I can be a little bit like with these bigger areas. You can see I can really load up the brush, and I could be a little bit more giving on how much ink I want to leave on that paper. And you guys are going to be doing this on Bristol board, so the nice thing about that is, like, it handles ink really well, and the way it applies, ink applies to Bristol, is really smooth. So it's a really good feeling. You'll be using the 400 series Bristol that we have here that actual comic book artists use. They use 400 and 500 series Bristol. So same materials, same application. I'm going in, I'm taking my time. You can see I've got relaxing music on, because I want to relax when I'm doing this. This should be an enjoyable process. It shouldn't be stressful. Okay. And so you'll go through and you'll ink the whole piece. And that's all I really wanted to show you guys today. This is your demo, so once you get done with that, start getting to work. If you haven't finished your background, drawing out your background, transferring it to Bristol, and drawing your figure, you need to get that done before you can even approach this. But once you have those things done, like, come over to the inking station that I'll have set up and knock it out of the park. Awesome. Have a good day.